Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for Thursday. So I'll start with the boring stuff. I'll start with the S&P, which didn't move anywhere again today, flat. So after futures, we got in this morning and futures were up a little bit, and they got squashed down pretty quickly. So it does seem to be that there's a little bit of a pattern here going on Thursday. There seems to be a little bit of volatility, especially in the Qs, which I'll get to the Qs next. So, either it's people don't want are just kind of getting ready for the weekend. We also have the Jackson Hole, which is coming up for speeches from all the Fed governors, all the central bankers. So maybe a little bit of risk reduction going into that meeting. But so how does this shape up here? What's it look like here in S&P or in SPY? Well, a couple things. You can kind of notice that we are continuing to make lower highs and lower lows over the short term. So we haven't really broken anything other than the 50-day moving average, which we're below. So it kind of feels like this, which basically happened at the end of June, beginning of July, where we had this consolidation zone. We never really broke any major support here. So here's a little bit deeper of a pullback that we've got going on. So, I think you just have to be patient. I was telling traders at the end of the day, chop really kills your options position. So if you're trading options and cash positions like I do, I manage two different portfolios. Your cash positions, they're in a choppy market, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to lose money on them. Option positions, however, in a choppy market, if you're long premium, you're going to get smoked. So just because of the decay, right? I mean, options you need a move for them to make money. So if you're in some September or October, some shorter dated positions, it's really difficult to make positions unless you're in and out of them. It's really difficult to make money in them unless you're in and out of them the same day. Swing trading, short-term swing trading, not so good in this environment. So that said, it's just one of these things where you have to be patient and wait for the next move. Either we're going to break further. If we look at SPY, which is again a very similar looking chart, either we're going to break here, 242.90, or we're going to resolve ourselves to the upside here. So it's anybody's guess right now. The one thing that we could say is we keep getting rejected as we try to turn higher. We get slammed down. So we're just not ready to do it yet, and it doesn't look like we're ready to break down yet either. So we'll see how the market reveals itself. Q's kind of the same thing, a little bit more volatility today. They did come back from the lows, but a pretty good day trading chance for people who are playing to the short side today. Right as soon as we get to the open, right, we're bid up all morning long. As soon as we get to the open, bam, sellers come in, and we broke the value area. This is a standard sell signal using the value areas. So, a break below value, a retest. You could see all this resistance with the long wicks here. Couldn't get into value, and then it fell apart. So again, things stabilize. So you have to be really quick in this market because it is choppy as hell to try to make money as a day trader. So that's the Qs, which underperformed and had the volatility today. IWM basically did nothing today. Finished where it started, up 30 basis points. Still needs to get above the 200-day moving average, which is this big white line chart. So we want to see this happen sooner than later. The longer that we stay below the 200-day moving average, it's not going to be good, in my opinion. So if we could get above this, in the next couple days, a good sign for the market. But that needs to happen. So not yet. All right, so I'll get to the three stories of the day. The three, I would say the lesser one, but still impactful, is hurricane. This Harvey seems to be intensifying. What did we see today? We saw calls in all the refiners, MPC, Marathon, MRO. We saw calls in this one. We also saw an interesting trade in Valera, which I've got up right in front of me. Really smart trade, I think, that somebody put on. They bought calls. If you look at this 2,500 here, they bought the 75 calls and they sold the 57.5 puts. So look at how wide this is. When you add up the net cost of this, it's just 10 cents. It looks like they paid for this trade. So if Valero does nothing by December expiration, they'll lose 10 cents. Really not that big of a deal. But they've got a chance if hurricane season really heats up. 75 is up here. Maybe they can make a little bit of money if this really breaks out. If it does nothing, as long as it doesn't break 57.5, they'll basically just lose 10 cents on the trade. So I think a smart trade to put on. They did some other trades. It looks like they did more of this trade as well. So maybe there was 5,000 that were bought. So refiners were the one thing that they really went after today. So that's story number one. Story number two, I'll go to the negative side, was this Amazon Whole Foods deal getting done, and then there was a headline that came out on Bloomberg about pricing that they're already going to start cutting pricing on Monday. So it was something that we've already experienced, a big move down in Costco, SFM, which is Sprouts, call buying in all of these names, Kroger. Right off that, as soon as the first headline came out, the first headline was that the deal is being closed. They look to close the deal on Monday. The second headline, we heard about the pricing that's going to take place. I went into Walmart puts this morning. So as soon as we started to hear about Kroger and SFM and the puts that went up, I bought I bought weekly Walmart puts for 17 cents and I got out of them at $1.10. So that was my trade of the day for the day, and this was really nice because I bought the Walmart puts before I saw the trades print on the tape. So after I was already in the trade, I saw somebody do the same thing, had the same idea I did, and they bought the August 79.5 puts, which I think is what I did. And literally they paid a penny or two higher than I did for those. I think they paid 18 cents. Here it is. I paid 17, so I got out at $1.10. It was a little bit difficult to get out of because the market maker went really wide on this, but everything got smoked. Then we saw puts on WBA as well. This came back, so this hit a VPOC, version point of control, and bounced back, which is sometimes the case with the way that these VPOCs work. So that was the second story of the day. All of these food names just got destroyed. The drug names, I think CVS went down with this as well. Just Costco obliterated, closed on the lows of the day. Just unreal. Kroger even, I thought Kroger came back. Kroger actually saw a little bit of call buying right at the end of the day. Where is it? I put this on here. Yeah, both Kroger and Walgreens saw some calls at the end of the day. This one happened right at the end of the day, the Walgreens. So that was story number two. So that's the negative. And then the positive, I would say, is look at what happened with the biotechs today. Up 2.1% today. So XBI, which is an equally weighted ETF, so the smaller names get the same weight as the larger names. This looks awesome to me. So a climb above the 50-day moving average, a move back into value, and then an MACD crossover. So really, really nice after this thing kind of dipped. So we talked about you go back to the SPY chart for a minute, or the S&P chart, and you have this pattern of a move down, but not too much of a break. Well, same thing with biotech. Move down, and it's starting to resolve itself out of here. So I like a long here in XBI. I did not put anything on in this space right now, but I like call spreads in this, maybe going out to November. And this is easy. Why is it easy? Because you know exactly where to get out of this. If it breaks back below the 50-day moving average, get out, hopefully for a small loss. But now that we've cleared the 50-day moving average, why not? And see where it wants to go. Again, I love the MACD crossover here. So that's positive. And biotech can sometimes lead us down, and sometimes it leads us up. So that was the big positive of the day. IBB, which is the other biotech ETF. Again, big difference in performance here. And this one's not over the 50-day moving moving average yet. Again, it's a completely different set of names. So this is what XBI looks like. You know, these are really small biotechs that led us higher. Look at Juno, up 6%. We saw call buying in that name last week. HRTX versus IBB. You know, you're going to see some different names in here. There's a couple similar names in here, but just different distribution. All right. And one other look, since I mentioned XRT. XRT, by the way, was up 2.5% today, only finished up 90 basis points, so under a percent. So again, look at Kroger, SFM, you know, all the food stores just getting absolutely smoked. Some of the other names, the smaller retail names kind of held on to their gains pretty nicely. So that's it. Those are I could go over a couple other things. Oh, you know, the option activity. There was a decent amount of option trades. We already went over the refiners. Saw a little bit of Micron calls. They didn't really go anywhere. I tried that trade. It didn't work this morning. We saw some Macy's calls go up. A lot of Citigroup calls go up. So Citigroup, I looked at Citigroup like 2 or 3 times today. You know, it kind of looks like the chart of XBI. No MACD crossover. Maybe that's what I'm waiting for. But, you know, a nice move back here, a reclaim of the 50-day moving average. So nice for Citigroup. So a lot of activity in that bank today. SYF, which I took this trade. This is a long-term trade, so January. It is underneath the 200-day moving average, so I have to use something else. I'll use the 50-day moving average as support. Deere, I thought was also interesting. You know, Deere, which I thought didn't really have such a bad quarter. So there was a small call buyer that came in to Deere today, which I always look for option activity after a name reports earnings. So these are the December 120s that went up nice opening trade after December. I started a position. I need to see some confirmation for me to really put on a sizable position. I have an alert set for 117.29 to see if we get above that. That's where I'll really add a larger position. So for now, just a small starter position in Deere. A couple other names, you know, Generac, which is also hurricane sensitive. We saw some calls in that early on. SMTC, you know, this is a tricky name to play in options. You know, they just went out to September for this one, but this is another semi-manufacturing name, I believe. So jump above the 50-day moving average for SMTC. You know, maybe a better name to play in stock. You know, even though it is priced at $38. Because the options are difficult, and they just did they were pretty short dated options. But so I put on a very small position in this one, and I'll kind of wait to see if we get a bigger trade. But nice opening trade. Not a name that I've ever traded before. Semtech, again, it's a semi manufacturing name, but I've done pretty well with this group. Again, not with this one. I've never traded that one before. So that's it. One of the last trade I'll mention. You know, there's a couple other ones in here that are notable, but Celgene. Celgene, another name that had, I think, pretty good earnings. Take a look at this trade that went up in Celgene. Not a big, not big in terms of number of contracts, but look at this, 835 for these June 2018 140 calls. So up here, so plenty of time for that trade. You know, you could do something like if you don't want to do, which I tell subscribers of Tribeca Trade Group, traders in the room all the time, you don't necessarily have to pick the exact contract they do. All you basically have to know is that there's a buyer present in the stock. You know, if this particular trade doesn't fit your trading plan, customize, do whatever you like. You know, maybe pick a different call spread, maybe not as far out to June, maybe January, or maybe stick to the June and maybe make it into a call spread, because this is pretty expensive. All right, so we'll end it there for the day. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great night, and see you back in the trading room bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks very much.